Okay, as people log on, I'm going to start here by saying, hi, I'm Kathy Merrill. I'm the CEO of Washingtonian. Welcome to Giving Tuesday and a conversation on food insecurity. 2 housekeeping notes. If you wish, we will take some questions at the end. If you wish to ask a question, use the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And if you wish to donate to either of these terrific, wonderful organizations, we sent links to donating in your registration. Please use them on this great Giving Tuesday. This conversation is going to be moderated by Teresa Carlson, who runs the public sector for Amazon Web Services. Thank you, Teresa. She is also a Washingtonian Most Powerful Woman, along with Radha Muthiah. Teresa, thank you, and all your AWS colleagues supporting this important dialogue. I'm going to hand it off to you.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you so much for having us here today. I'm Teresa Carlson. As Kathy said, I run worldwide public sector for Amazon Web Services, and I'm just really honored to moderate this panel on food insecurity. So, and the topic I think is really personal, so personal for all of us today. At Amazon, we're really eager to help address the levels of food security during COVID-19. And as a result, we've been using our Amazon Flex drivers to provide food delivery services of shelf-stable groceries and prepackaged food to over 6 million meals through the end of June. So we'll continue to do that, and then we'll assess at June where we are. And locally, Amazon has donated $155,000 to Arlington and Washington, D.C. food banks, including DC Central Kitchen, Capital Area Food Bank, Martha's Table, which I love. I've been doing Martha Tables dinners at my Friends the Biz Nows for years, Central Union Mission, and Arlington Food Assistance Center. And within Amazon Web Services specifically, we work with governments, educational institutions, and not-for-profits to build those digital tools that allows us to be able to serve those communities in new ways more effectively. And with schools being closed nationwide, Share Our Strength is a group that has built a tool on AWS called No Kid Hungry, free meals finder, which helps families find food distribution sites in their communities. And we know that No Kid Hungry, which is a customer of ours, they utilize a data service with AWS to visualize federal and community nutrition programs to help identify the greatest needs. And today, because it is Giving Tuesday, I'm really proud to announce that at AWS, we're going to be giving 3 additional donations to tackle the issue of food insecurity. We're contributing $25,000 to World Central Kitchen. We're giving $25,000 to the Capital Area Food Bank in support of the work each one of these amazing organizations are doing to combat food insecurity during this time. And hopefully what I'm understanding is with World Central Kitchen, this is going to help to provide close to 2,500 meals to food insecurity individuals. And with the Capital Area Food Bank, this is going to help further their mission to provide those healthy food meals prepared to the individuals struggling with hunger and food insecurity. And since some of the most vulnerable individuals during this COVID-19 are children, we're also going to be making a $25,000 donation to Share Our Strength, who runs the No Kid Hungry campaign. In fact, I thought I'd share one fact. I'm originally from Pulaski County, Kentucky. My parents are both teachers there. And this county has a 21.3% food insecurity rate for children, which is the same as where I live today in Washington, D.C. So I thought that was interesting that we still have this vast food insecurity all across the United States and around the world. And 16 million children in this country are struggling with hunger and live in food security households. So the impact is really, really vast. Okay, now with that, I hope you all open your checkbooks up to these 2 amazing individuals and what they're doing here and helping them with the work. And at this time, I'd like to kick it off with the Q&A. And of course, at Amazon, we play a small role, and that's the reason I'm so excited today to have these 2 superheroes with us. Jose Andres needs no introduction as we see him on the front lines every day. We so love and appreciate his work. 10 years ago, he started the World Central Kitchen to create smart solutions to address the hungry and poverty. He and his team are literally food first responders, serving millions of meals a year in crisis situations. And here's just a couple of data points I thought you all would like to hear. Recently, Jose and his team delivered 10,000 meals in Baltimore, and he's also just teamed up with the Washington Nationals to use that empty stadium to cook and distribute thousands of meals. And as in his nature, he's announced that when his restaurants reopen after COVID, that the doctors and nurses are going to eat for free. Jose, that's just so amazing. And we're also thrilled to have Radha Muthiah here, who's the CEO of the Capital Area Food Bank. Capital Area Food Bank is feeding America food banks for the Washington, D.C. region. It provides food to over 450 amazing local shelters and pantries. Put simply, this is where so many organizations go, and from the emergency shelters to soup kitchens to get their food. And they've supplied, can you believe it, 32 million meals last year, and the demand has gone way up. And I'm sure Radha is going to tell us about that over the next 45 minutes. So these are two of the most amazing leaders in the world on food insecurity, and we are so blessed to have them in our Washington, D.C. community. So let's jump into this conversation. Jose, let's start with you. You have such a unique perspective to this particular emergency because you not only are the founder of World Central Kitchen, but you've also worked in emergency food response. What are you seeing on the front lines right now, and what do you see right now that's fundamentally different from what you provided in Puerto Rico and those disaster areas?
Yeah, thank you for having Radha and myself. This emergency is very different for us in the sense that usually World Central Kitchen responds to a hurricane, an earthquake, a volcano explosion, a typhoon. And sometimes when you see destruction, it's very simple to understand the need. We've been talking about the health crisis that is still going, and we need to do more on that front, especially to protect our doctors and nurses. We've been talking about the economic crisis itself, but what we've not been talking enough is the humanitarian crisis. And the issue is that when you see the visuals of destruction, it's very easy for people to rally behind. You see destruction, therefore people need our help. When you look around American cities, it's not destruction. If you don't really see on TV the hospitals with ambulances arriving non-stop and knowing what's happening in the emergency facilities, almost you will not have a sense that anything is happening. But that's what happens with this emergency. As I'm going to places like Corona in Queens or Harlem, where we have one of the biggest public housing facilities anywhere in America. And all of a sudden you see that people are losing their jobs, that traditional NGOs that provide service are shutting down because they don't have funds or because they don't have volunteers. Traditional systems of feeding Americans in need are broken and people are going hungry. So that's what you see in some food banks, long lines. That's what you see, and Radha will tell you that food banks all of a sudden, they are increasing their output of meals exponentially. That's what you see, that organization like ours, that usually we are not, let's say, in the hunger movement, we have to be activating ourselves. And right now we're doing close to 250,000 meals a day in America, Colombia, Venezuela, Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Spain, and other places. So that's what's going on, that the need is real, that hopefully we will beat this pandemic and this virus, and hopefully the curve will go down. But the hunger curve, the Americans and people around the world need of food, that line is gonna keep increasing for weeks and months ahead, even when maybe the virus is gonna start being beaten. That's what I see, that we are only at the early stages of a humanitarian crisis, that then we need to be asking everybody, we need help of the federal government, we need help of foundations and individuals. So organizations like Radha or hours can be tackling the problems before they become so big that one day civil unrest can be in the horizon.
Yes, it's so true. And Jose, just one kind of quick add-on question to that. How are you getting the food physically safe into the locations? And do you need additional support for that?
Well, unfortunately, this crisis has put almost every single restaurant in America out of business. And that means that where is a problem, there is an opportunity. One of the things World Central Kitchen has done is we put more than 600 restaurants up of the service of feeding fellow Americans. Much of the money we get donated, we invested in maintaining restaurants open. So restaurants in their community, they can be helping the hospital that all of a sudden nobody's providing food to, the shelters that all of a sudden their feeding systems are broken, elderly homes or individual elders that nobody's taking care of. We are being able to use new systems. The traditional partnerships with traditional NGOs that are very strong in their communities. But for example, in Washington, D.C., we are doing a lot of deliveries using Uber, using Lyft, using Grubhub.
Yes.
In a moment that we were lacking volunteers, it's like if we have those men and women providing those services, let's make sure we use them to deliver foods in a very simple system that actually is functional. We've been working for many weeks helping those organizations create those systems, and right now I can tell you that we are not only doing it in DC, but in many other cities across America, and even in Spain, where we are using the Spanish mail company Correos and the firefighters when they are not busy to help us deliver meals all across Madrid, for example.
Such a great, really a great idea. Radha, let's jump to you for a second. You run one of the largest food banks in the country. What's some of the biggest concerns that you've seen, but over the next few months?
Sure,
what do we think is going to happen?
Great, thanks Teresa for that. And thanks Washingtonian for hosting this event. Always fun to partner with Jose. It's I think 10 years now in various different capacities. So great to be working together locally here in the greater Washington area. You know, you mentioned at the start, Teresa, some of the organizations in our area. You mentioned Martha's Table, some, there's Manna in Montgomery County, Food for Others. All of these are organizations are part of the food banks network. So there's often some confusion between food pantries and distributors and the food bank. And so we function through a network of 450 of these types of partners, some well-known and some not so well-known, but they're pantries in faith-based institutions. And over the course of a year, we typically provide north of 30 million meals just to 400,000 individuals in our area. So I say just in comparison to some of the numbers that Jose's talked about globally, but 400,000 individuals in the who are food secure, so they're uncertain where their next meal is going to come from. That's just an incredibly large number, and one I think we would all argue is too large in the nation's capital. Now, what we've seen over the last couple of months is a tremendous increase in demand. I mean, as Jose has said, we've seen it in so many different ways. So our partners calling us and saying, we need to get more food from you because we are just seeing an unprecedented number of clients, knocking on our doors, requiring, more groceries. And you can understand that because of the 400,000 individuals, in the past, pre-COVID, they would come to a food bank and its network for about 3 to 5 days worth of groceries a month. But all of a sudden, with COVID, we're being told, have 1 to 2 weeks worth of groceries at home. So the demand just increased, just with that, if you will. And we've also seen a 400% increase in the number of calls that we're getting to our Hunger Lifeline. And these are, some are traditional food insecure individuals, if you will, but others, and so many are new. They've never had to rely on the Emergency Food Assistance Network. Many are newly unemployed and really, in some ways, a little little uncertain how to navigate this, a little embarrassed in some cases. There's obviously some, dignity issues, stigma issues related to this, and we're trying to make it easier for people to get their food. So as we look at the concerns going forward, there are a few. So one is, of course, the increasing number of unemployed. So we're looking at these numbers on a daily and weekly basis in our region. And just concluding April, we saw 350,000 more people file for unemployment claims just in our region. And so when you translate that, we're seeing for the next year, probably 70 to 80,000 more people who will be in need of food. So to Jose's point about the economic slowdown and the impact of this will last a long time, and there are a lot more people. This month alone, we are providing about 87,000 meals per day. So 87,000 meals per day in May. And we anticipate that to increase. So some of the additional concerns beyond unemployment are the fact that we're all having to purchase so much more food because the donations from our area retailers, food donations, are down. So purchases of food, the lead times to be able to get food in, these are all challenges that we have and that we'll have to address over the coming months.
Yeah, those are astounding numbers, of course, and the whole fact that many of these individuals are still struggling getting their unemployment checks, just the whole issue that you're seeing around the country with that, so they don't have funds coming in. So let's talk a minute about the food supply network. I'd like to kind of hear from both of you, because there's been a lot about that in the news today. How are you getting the food supply in? And what kind of more broadly, talking about, again, back to the safety of delivering those. Jose laid out how Lyft and Uber and others are kind of taking a leaper individually, but when you need to get large supplies into an area, how are you seeing that happening, and how can we, what can we be doing to better improve that supply chain system?
Sure, maybe I'll start and then Jose can add to it as well. But we are, in terms of food supply, I think if we pull back from a big picture perspective, most of the food that is grown on farms in the United States, 50+%, is actually geared towards going to restaurants and other locations other than grocery stores. So it's reflected the changing in our eating patterns over the last 5 to 10 years as well, where a good portion of our meals are taken outside of the home as opposed to groceries that need to be purchased and cooked at home. So we're seeing over the last few weeks the need to reorient that supply chain a little bit. As Jose mentioned, many restaurants aren't functioning or functioning to the same level. So those supply chains are having to pivot to be able to provide more food in the form of groceries to retailers and grocery stores and to organizations like food banks and its partners across the country. So that's one adjustment, big picture from a food system that's taking place. Now, how we're looking at that at the local level now is you have to be innovative. These are moments that call for great innovation. And so we have looked at our traditional partner base. We've created hubs on top of that. We're looking at emergency boxes of food to assure low touch or minimal exposure as we provide food to those most in need. So what you must have seen, pictures of pop-up pantries, where cars and people will drive up, their trunks open up, we put a box of food in, that's good for a family of 4 for say half a week, and then they drive off. These are the types of measures that we're all having to employ just to ensure safety in distribution and being able to get as much food out to those in need. And we're seeing many temporary partners join us as well, those who may not have been in the food distribution space before, providing other social services, coming on board, and innovations, whether it's through the rideshare providers, DC taxi, cab providers, many volunteers who are raising their hand and saying, we've typically come and distributed food at, pop-up pantries and in your warehouse, but we've got cars. We can deliver food to those who are homebound. So it's all of these types of innovations that are necessary and are taking place to be able to get food to those most in need.
I want to come back to you later on volunteers. It sounds like we need a lot more volunteers doing that. That could be a big help. Jose, I wanted to ask you, I saw, and I was so amazed, I saw in the news, in the COVID-19 response, you actually helped supply the meals aboard the Diamond Princess cruise line when they had that horrible, it was horrible what was happening there. How did you design a system that could provide food while preventing the disease transmission? I found that, first of all, thank you for doing that, but I was so interested, how did that come about, and what was your process and mechanisms?
Yeah, before I answer this, I wanted to add to what Radha said. Number one, I think Radha and her team, they've been doing an amazing work as the many food banks all across the country. What I'm going to be saying is that in this moment, food banks shouldn't be without money. They shouldn't be without food. I think the federal government must be supporting in this moment every single organization that does a good job, making sure that food is delivered in the right way to families in need. And food banks are one of the great ways we can be doing this. Probably Feeding America or Radha, they cannot do that, but I can because I'm an individual. The federal government must do more to support every single food bank. But then what I'm watching, as you asked about distribution, we see these photos of farms that all of a sudden, because their traditional customer base is gone, that they didn't have enough time to adapt to the new circumstances. And all of a sudden, we're gonna see many farms with a big output of fruits and vegetables, fishermen with clams and fish, and all of a sudden they don't know or they don't have vehicles to do the right distribution to the people that need it. So we're gonna see long lines in food banks, and on the other hand, we're gonna see farms dropping their foods. That's why it's so important that we keep putting pressure on Congress, and USDA in partnership with the White House have been announcing some measures, but I think that we need to see this as a real emergency. So action happens quick and swift, because when you're hungry, you're not hungry a month from now, you're not hungry 6 months from now. And it takes time to create the system. So we need first to take care of the emergency, to recognize we have an emergency. So it's very important that we keep pushing for that. I think USDA has not been doing a bad job, but I feel they can do better. And they can do better investing into the solutions. Let's buy from rural America. Let's buy from small farms. Let's make sure that no 1 pound of food will go to waste. And let's make sure we find ways to bring it from those farms all directly to the food banks. Radha is doing a great job buying everything. She's one of the biggest purveyors in the area of fresh fruits and vegetables. Even right now, it's hard to be handling fresh fruits and vegetables if you don't have enough volunteers. But then we need to find other ways to distribute that food. In the places we are feeding, which remember, World Central Kitchen is here trying to cover the blind spots. When we bring hot meals, we see that at the same time we are giving away those hot meals, we can be giving boxes of foods. So if you go to the Twitter feed of World Central Kitchen, you're gonna see that in many places across America, New York, LA, San Francisco, Oakland, we are doing farmers markets once or twice a week. So families, as they come for their meals, they also can bring with them fresh fruits and vegetables. So it requires bigger points of distribution. So by having more distribution points, we don't need to have long lines in one particular food bank. More distributions through the different partners that every food bank have will equal more access near where the people live, so we can do it in a smart way, in a more systematic way. And I hope this is what is going to happen. Stop throwing money at the problem, investing in the solution. The federal government must do more to invest in the right solutions. So said that, and actually it's going to be a few things coming in the next hour, in the next 2 or 3 hours, where we are requesting great systems that we have in place to get FEMA to be able to activate restaurants across America to take care of local problems in one phone call. So it's gonna be more of that coming. To respond to what we did, responding to Yokohama Princess Cruise Ship, over 4 weeks, 18,000 meals a day, 3 meals a day for 6,000 people under virus that still nobody knows how to handle. World Central Kitchen, we got a lot of experience feeding people in Haiti under cholera. feeding people in Mozambique under cholera. The way we do it has been years of experience, hands-on on the ground, boots on the ground, and we put that same expertise to make sure we protected our teams, we protected obviously the food, and we protected the people that we delivered to with systems that allow us to protect everybody. So in Yokohama, we responded also to Oakland, and we partnered with Governor Newsom. We create firewalls between food production, delivery near the place needs to be receiving the food, and the final, what we will call the hot zone, the final delivery, in this case, into the cruise ship. If you follow the videos we posted on World Central Kitchen, you will see that it's very systematic. Actually, you will think like the cooks, we are the CDC, because if you saw our teams, they were perfectly dressed, with every measure to make sure we protected the teams. If you take a look how we use a crate to put the food inside the boat, so none of our members will have direct contact with anybody inside the cruise ship. Number one, to protect ourselves, but also to protect them from us. This way, we create these systems very early on. And when I decided to change my restaurants from restaurants to community kitchens, this was the simple idea to show everybody that we will have to become takeout with minimum contact or no contact between the cooks and the people doing the food inside and the people receiving the food. And we created HACCP, the right health code under Corona, that we share with every single restaurant across America, where it's very logical, but at the same time, in these circumstances, we need somebody that give us the right ideas to make sure that we do it in the right way. So this is kind of the role what Central Kitchen has been doing on the side. We are not saying like what we do is the official, but in lack of anything more official, we created, again, this manual that gives a lot of answers to the questions many people in the food industry have. The good news
So helpful.
is that the food is not the way to pass this virus. We saw it in Wuhan, we saw it in China, we saw it in Italy, we saw it in Spain. People should be okay. They should not be worried about ordering food from their local restaurant or getting food delivered home. What we need to make sure is that we don't have any transmission of the virus by the contact. And if we put the right systems in place, food is not part of the problem, but actually part of the solution.
So, I mean, so important. And I want to just go back for a second, because you were talking about all the data points with farmers and getting the food to the right locations. And I do think I think we all believe our government should be more impactful, but I do think we could do public-private partnerships using data, maybe through farming and other groups like John Deere, where we know the food is, and then tag it and get it in the right places. And I've seen this in Africa and India and other places where I go, that food, 70% of the population in India is dependent on farming. So what are you both thinking of? Rod, I'll start with you on this one, but I'd love to hear Jose's ideas. Data, it could become a very powerful weapon in this fight against food insecurity. How are you both thinking about that?
Data is incredibly important. So, internally we have a motto that we're data-driven and we're client-centered, and it manifests itself in everything that we do. So we use data for decision-making. We have a hunger heat map for the entire region that highlights exactly the different levels of an intensity of food insecurity across our region down to the census tract level. So we're able to look at it neighborhood by neighborhood. Jose mentioned the importance of partners, the 450 partners that we have, across the area. We're able to determine who might need more food. If we do need to add another partner to be able to service that area, data drives all of that decision making. Finding services. So if you are someone in need of food, you can go online to our website, click the Get Help button, and you're taken to an interactive map. You put in your zip code. You can see the food service providers and other social service providers who are in your area, and you can go to them for support. Data also plays a role in our operations and our supply chain. We are getting, 45 million pounds of food every year into the food bank, and we need to be able to get that out through our network to those most in need. And so our supply chain, our truck routing software to be able to, get the food at the times that it's required with different partners. Data plays a role in all of these things. And in terms of our partnerships, so as we're looking at public-private partnerships, which you just raised, or if we're working with other nonprofits like Jose's group, etc., we use data to be able to determine what are the assets that other, private sector entities can bring that can further facilitate innovation and, more efficiency in terms of getting food out to those in need. In particular, produce, I will say, we've spent a little bit of time, Jose was talking about that, and it's so important in our region as it is across all regions, but produce is highly perishable. And so we need to be able to get that in and out, and for it to be still have, several days of freshness and life, if you will, for those who are going to cook it. So data is paramount, and we use it in so many different ways.
Yeah. It's so important because it not only, the data itself helps not only get the food where it belongs, but it can help ensure that the farmers are being paid and the food's not perishing. So those two elements can really be a powerful component to getting the food to the right place. Jose, do you have any, what are your thoughts on the data? Because you're seeing it from a global perspective.
Well, I mean, Radha is one of the persons knows how to use data better than I've seen ever. And in her previous role on Clean Cooking Alliance for the United Nations, I saw how she was using data to tackle the problems and transform them into opportunities. Me, I'm a guy that I saw the power of data in emergencies when we were in Puerto Rico, and the problem was so big after Maria that we needed to understand where the hurricane hit, even very much hit the entire island. But then I was able to get help from credit card companies that the data was very simple. Tell me who doesn't have a credit card, and usually they are going to be the people that they are in need. And tell me who is using snaps, and usually it's going to be the people that we know they need help, especially when the snaps cards are digital and all of a sudden the cell towers and the satellites didn't work. So people couldn't use the card because it required of technology and the cell towers to be used. So I began requesting adaptation in the form of paper trail, because technology without electricity was not the right partner. We are not having this problem right now. So I do believe that even more than data is how we're going to be using technology to make sure that nobody is left behind. If we have snaps and we have cards that people can be using, and where the government in a very strategic way can be increasing the amount or the people that receive that aid. Why we don't start letting SNAP cards being used in local diners, in local restaurants? So locally, with the aid of the federal government, we can be helping the local economies, feeding families in need, let's say in rural areas that maybe they don't have access to food banks or organizations like World Central Kitchen. That will be a very smart usage of something like it's already in place. Or we cannot be letting a SNAP to be used for online purchasing. Why they cannot be ordering from a local market that they can be delivering home and the government can take care of that, or the people can pick up the car and pick up the food right in their trunk without any contact in their local supermarket. We should be making sure that that happens. FEMA should be part of this moment, but for that we need to be recognizing a true food emergency, because they have funds and they can be deploying them through the states and the mayors, and we can be coming up with simple, smart solutions like the restaurants we have in our network that we are already using, making sure that we tackle the problems at the local level in a very quick, efficient way, helping 360 the entire system. The restaurants are in business, they employ some of the people, they know their community better than anybody, they can buy from local farmers, from local fishermen. $1 becomes kind of benefits the entire feeding system. from
I want to just jump in and add to what Jose is saying, because it's a really important point on SNAP. And for those who know, that's food stamps, right? So you get it, you've got your SNAP card, and, people get it at some point during the first 10 days of the month, and there's a certain allocation. Now, what Jose is talking about in terms of increasing the amount that is added to the SNAP card and increasing where the SNAP card can be used are really incredibly important and worth sort of an underline here. Because if we were to add just 15% to what everybody is getting for SNAP, that's an immediate jumpstart, not just for that individual, but for the economy, because that's 15% more that is going to be spent somewhere, whether it's at the grocery store where it currently can be spent. Jose is talking about extending it to, restaurants, etc., places where people can get good, healthy meals. That then puts the money back into our economy, puts people back to work, and it generates a multiplier effect, as he's saying. So it's incredibly important to think about ways that government can support, because that just has an exponential effect, and the rest of us are just, supporting in the periphery, if you will. So everyone's important, but the government has a really important role to play here, and a simple way could be just by increasing the amount that people are getting for SNAP over the course of the next 6 months or 12 months.
You were reading my mind. I was going to ask you that question. In fact, Arizona, California, and Kentucky can now use their benefits to order groceries online and have them actually delivered to their door. So I think we need more innovations. Agree with you. You all are both amazing. From all of us here online and around the world, thank you both for all you're doing. We have a lot of individuals with questions. So I'm going to turn it back to Kathy. And Kathy, what have we got? I'm sure people have queued up here for amazing questions for the two of them.
We have a lot of questions, but many people, including Beth Johnson, Michelle McManus, a lot of people are asking how they can volunteer. Do you still need volunteers at your organizations? And how can they, what can we do to help?
I'm going to speak on behalf of myself, and I think even of Radha even. Listen, we need to remember one thing. We all should be so grateful to the NGOs of America. People need to understand that if we put together the entire workforce of all the NGO system of America, we become the third largest employer. Means that the power of men and women, people like Radha and her team and many other NGOs across our capital, Maryland, Virginia, and across America, without their service to America, things will be looking much worse right now. So we need to be giving those men and women on those NGOs the respect they deserve, because they cover so many ground in our society. In these moments, volunteers all of a sudden went down. In my case, because I have every single restaurant that every single employee is out of job and the restaurants are closed, I need to rely on those people because they are already our first responders and they want to be part. So in other situations, I will need many more volunteers than the ones. But right now, I have every single chef and cook that wants to be part of this solution. But rather, I know that her and many other food banks, they need hands. What happened, Radha and I and everybody else, we have a big challenge. How do we keep our volunteers and everybody safe in a moment that this pandemic, everybody can be carrying the virus? This adds an extra challenge that Radha and I, we never had to face before. And right now is something we need to be very careful.
Yeah, I think there's certainly opportunities to support, and whether it's World Central Kitchen or the food bank, we encourage you to go onto our website and sign up, and you can do that. But I do underscore, Jose, it's such a generous community that's giving of itself, and at this moment we are we're not able to take as many as we usually do in terms of volunteers, precisely because we're trying to keep everyone safe and at a social distance so that we're not adding to the problem. At this point, honestly, it's it's financial donations that will make the biggest difference. You know, Jose's purchasing his food. We're purchasing, you know, just hundreds of truckloads of food, you know, every few weeks. And that is going to, it's not just the case for the next month or two, it's likely to be the case for the next 6 to 9 months or so. So that's honestly the most important way that.
And Radha, on Giving Tuesday, if someone gives you $100, how much, how I hope people, I mean, Amazon, it was amazing, 25,000 to go these organizations, thank you so much. Yeah. How much food, how many meals does $100 buy, or $1,000?
Yeah, so typically $100 will, you know, $1 will give you 2.5 meals. We're buying a lot more now, so it's probably somewhere between 2 and 2.5, you know, versus the food that is donated to us. Mm-hmm. But we stretch it. We stretch it significantly. I know Jose's team does as well. And so we really get as much as we can from it. And today, for Giving Tuesday, we have donors ready to match as well. So everything that comes in, you know, will be matched by other gifts. So it's incredibly important. And, you know, as the restrictions loosen up a little bit and it becomes safer for more people to congregate, because now we're also bound by the number of people that can be in any one place, you know, at the same time. But as those things loosen up, I think there'll be more opportunities to volunteer as we move forward.
And then one last question I think we have time for, from Samantha to Jose. You're doing a lot to help the restaurant industry. I mean, you've put Washington on the map as a food town. Your restaurants always, we write about in our magazine. What can we do to help, you know, the restaurants community?
Yeah, well, I didn't put Washington D.C. on the map. Jean-Louis Paladin put the Washington, Roberto Donna, Nora Puyon, Bob Kincaid, Patrick O'Connell, Jeff Bubin, oh my God, Katz, Okoki, Katsuya Fukushima. I mean, it's hundreds, as we know, of men and women that they put, and your magazine has helped obviously a lot to keep all of us engaged. And I'm very happy I joined this city 27 years ago and received the support of everybody. I remember Jean-Louis Paladin and Roberto Donna coming to my restaurant and giving me use when I was a 23-year-old boy, giving me a push in the back. Senator Patrick Moynihan, who was probably my first guest in Jaleo on 7th and E, who I didn't know who he was. I thought he was just a nutty guy. And I was, who is this guy talking about Franco and Mao Zedong? And he told me, if you love America, America will love you back. What I've been doing is obviously just trying to find out how can I help my own restaurants, and in the process, sharing that knowledge with anybody else. I think we, the people that is so close, that document from the restaurants I have, we the people is telling us that we the people, we should be here for each other. I receive so much that what I'm trying to use to do is when I feel I can help, I can lead from the front. When no, I lead by the back and I'm ready to support somebody else. But in this moment, I was very proud that the Mayor Bowser has been taking a good lead in bringing business people all across. And she named me co-chairman of the food response and restaurant reopening. That doesn't mean we're going to reopen tomorrow, but how we will reopen so everybody can do it in the same way without being afraid of making the wrong decision that can be costly, or et cetera, et cetera. So this is one way. And obviously is the other way, which has been something we've been doing for weeks now on PPP and how to help small businesses, and especially how to help the restaurant industry to go through these hard times, and especially to get us ready to reopening and being part of the reconstruction and reopening, not only of Washington, D.C., but of America. So for me, I've been having this kind of helping lobby on one side with many chefs across America to help especially the small restaurant industry. On the other hand, you're going to see that there's going to be some bills that they're going to be introduced in the next hours, actually, where we are bringing people from both sides of the question, Republicans and Democrats, with one very simple idea, that food should be what brings America together. America was created on the shoulders of farmers. Food should be a right to everybody. And here you have the organization of Radha, myself, and the many others, Martha's Table, DC Central Kitchen, and many more that there are too many to be named, that they're doing an amazing work. Let's make sure that we, between all, with the support of organizations like Radha, myself, and others, we're able to make sure that one plate of food at a time is the beginning of a better tomorrow. Food is important, and we need to start giving the importance it has. Should be treated as a national security issue. The same way our president and leaders around the world have generals next to them to recommend what's the right defense, we should start having closer to our leaders food experts, so the decisions are made not throwing money never again to the problem, but investing into the right solutions so America is fed through this crisis and beyond.
Yeah.
On that note, I mean, Jose, America loves you back. You loved America and we love you back. And that is precisely the reason I want to say thank you to all three of you. Teresa and AWS, thank you for the donation to these two terrific organizations. I'm so proud to have you all as Washingtonians, and I speak for our entire Washington community when I say, you know, Godspeed. Thank you for the work you do for helping those who need help the most. And thank you for taking the time.
And everybody should open up their.
She got cut off, but everyone should open up their wallets.
Right, Kathy? Yes. Yeah.
Why do you want money in the bank for? Why do you want money in the bank for? Just use it.
A little bit goes a really, really long way. Give it.
Absolutely.